Hey guys, TCG here, how are we doing today? So today's video is going to be asking the question, have Nekroz overstayed their welcome in the TCG? Nekroz has been tier 1 since their release, so since they came out in February this year, it is now just about to get to September, so they have been around for roughly around 6 months. Now if we compare that to other tier 1 decks that have existed in the past, we can actually see that Nekroz actually haven't existed for as long as other decks. So if you take a look at Dragon Rulers, they debuted into the TCG and they became tier 1 immediately because we got all the components of Dragon Rulers which made them so good. We got them May 2013 and they managed to survive in a very high power and very high tier all the way to January 2015. So if we ever look at something else, there's a few things like Telidad, there's a few things like Wind-Ups, there's a whole bunch of other decks which existed for longer than 6 months. So in that regard, if you wouldn't ask if Nekroz have actually been here too long and been tier 1 too long, really by the time it gets to October, they will have been tier 1 for the same length of time as other decks in the past that were tier 1. However, Nekroz is arguably weaker than Dragon Rulers. Of course, Nekroz have a lot of powerful tools at their disposal that make them very, very strong. But I firmly believe that if you put tier 1 Dragon Rulers at their best, between comparing it to Nekroz with 3 Brionics and with all the other cards in it, 3 Tishulas and 3 Preparation of Rites, if you put them together in a fight, I think Dragon Rulers will come out on top 70% of the time. I do feel that they're stronger, and yet they existed for longer than Nekroz did at tier 1. Even though they got hit very, very hard by losing their baby rulers, overall they managed to survive for over 8 to 9 months. They were very, very strong. And so eventually they got knocked out, and even then they were tier 2, tier 3. They still managed to compete, even at 1 Dragon Ruler, 1 element per 4 in the deck. So it was still very, very, very strong. Nekroz not being as strong as Dragon Rulers, you can actually keep the deck in the game for a bit longer, and you can still say that it's still not overstayed its welcome yet. But a lot of people are advocating are looking forward to its disappearance into obscurity. So if you want to look at the actual factor of time and length of time, and that is how you can tell when a deck's been around too long, then you can use that as a kind of reference point to see that if they actually survive the October ban list, then you will know for sure that they have been here way too long, and you can just say Nekroz needs to die right now because we're getting new stuff and it doesn't matter anymore. And that follows me onto my opposing point to this whole video. Nekroz have been designed, okay, at this point they have been designed to tackle the decks which currently exist in our meta. Okay, if you look at Shadows, they gained fusion monsters which were specifically designed to tackle different decks. So Cleethorph Towers was really, really strong, but Shekanaga's defense is really, really high, and they both came out around the same time. Anoyatilis was a really, really good card, and it used the water, so it's obviously got that kind of connotation that it's designed to be used against Nekroz because its effect specifically hurts Nekroz. And of course it actually does really well in the Shadow mirror match as well. Nekroz have been designed to tackle the decks that we currently have, and I'm talking Burning Abyss and Shadows mainly. There are Termites as well, but if you take a look at Unicorn Brionic, you can tell that their effects are actually geared really strongly towards dealing with the other decks in the format, and that is what makes them so strong compared to the other decks in the format, because they actually, the other decks in the format have to cater their main deck to beat Nekroz. So Nekroz really were dominating the game just because they actually have every single out to every deck that you can possibly play in this format. So Nekroz are very, very strong. But because of that, if you change the meta, then suddenly Nekroz's powerful cards like Brionic, cards like Valkyries, if you have a way to push through their cards because their cards no longer affect you, okay? Something like Magispectors. Magispectors are unaffected by Nekroz pretty much completely, okay? If you actually play Magispectors against Nekroz, you'll find your matchup to be very, very good. It could go either way because Nekroz is so powerful, but Magispectors are a very big pain in the ass to deal with, and Nekroz can't deal with them, so it's kind of a flip. But at the same time, if you add additional decks like Pendulum Magicians and other decks that are going to come up in the format very, very soon, Nekroz are going to start the effects that they have at their disposal that make them so strong, being able to handle stuff like Burning Abyss and Shadows. You cannot apply the same stuff over into these new decks. Cosmo will eventually outplay Nekroz in terms of advantage, in terms of speed, in terms of floatability. Those are different effects that will allow them to triumph over Nekroz, as well as a bunch of other decks like Pendulum Magicians. That's what I'm trying to get at here. I think you can understand my point here. So I think that Nekroz will eventually die out, and it's just going to happen naturally. So whether or not they've overstayed their welcome, I think we will know when they've overstayed their welcome for sure. I think the rest of the game will just go beyond what Nekroz exists at already, and then Nekroz will go, oh, actually we're kind of not really supposed to be here anymore, and then people will stop playing it, and then Nekroz will die out by itself. So a lot of people are saying that Nekroz will not die by itself, and therefore, because it's so versatile, that we won't be able to actually get rid of it unless we forcibly do it by Konami's ban list. And that makes sense, but at the same time, I honestly feel like the way that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now, you could probably just keep producing power creep decks, and then eventually just kick out ones from 6 months ago, and that's how it's going to be for like the rest of the time until Yu-Gi-Oh! Just stops being the game. So that's how I feel about Nekroz, but of course that's up to you, because if you played Nekroz properly for the last 6 months, then you may have a very different opinion to me. You may actually feel like Nekroz needs to be dealt with in a much more stricter, much more militarian fashion than I'm actually implying in this video. So anyway, so thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, comment your thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So until next time, guys, the TCG lover is out.